Well, hello guys, I'm coming with you with another story, and here the summary. Izuku's only wish was to become a hero, and with the help of his idol, All Might, he's coming closer to that dream. But someone else is joining him on that adventure, someone by the name of Enso Arashi. He's not joining Izuku to become a hero. Instead, he wishes to help Izuku become strong enough to face a threat coming to his world. Romance, harem, better than this summary sounds. And if you want to check it out, the link will be down in the description. Well then, let's get the story. Izuku Midoriya walked down the city sidewalk looking into his burnt notebook in depression. So many things that people had said before went through his mind once more, especially after his encounter with All Might. He still can't face reality, even though he's already in his third in junior high. It's time for you to think seriously about your future. You have to consider what's realistic. He closed his notebook and let out a sad sigh. Even a pro hero said it. He felt water blurring his vision and he wiped his eyes. Don't cry. You knew, didn't you? The world darkened around his mind. You knew. That's why you were trying so desperately. You were averting your eyes, not looking at reality. His idol, no, his hero, had told him that he couldn't become a hero without a quirk, crushing a part of Izuku's spirit that he had been trying to keep together for so long. He sighed, can I really not be a hero? This question echoed through Izuku's mind as he passed by a small, dark alleyway. But just as he nearly passed it, a hand reached out from the darkness and covered Izuku's mouth with another hand grabbing his arm. MMPH. Izuku's eyes widened and he didn't even get a chance to scream as he was suddenly pulled into the alleyway and was slammed by the front against the wall. A hand pinned his arm behind his back and Izuku felt a cold blade of the sword get placed on the back of his neck, making his blood turn cold. The only thing he could see in the corner of his eye was some long black hair. He was too afraid to even try looking back more with a blade behind his neck. You scream, you die. A cold voice threatened behind him. Izuku went pale and didn't even attempt to struggle out of fear. He simply managed to perform the smallest of nods and complied. Good. You may not have noticed, but I've been watching you for a while, the voice said behind him. Izuku blinked in shock. You watching me? Why me? Wait, if he's been watching me for so long, then does that mean? The person interrupted his thoughts. Such a secret, but important conversation to conveniently come upon. I'm sure that many people wouldn't like to know that such a hero has been keeping secrets like that from them. Izuku felt his stomach drop. He knows he heard everything. Did I just release All Might's secret to the world? Izuku felt horrified, disappointed, ashamed. So many bad feelings of guilt just plagued his mind at that thought. Now I don't get exactly what's going on, but currently I don't have anything against that hero. Rather, I have business with you instead. With me. All I wish for you to do is to answer one question I have. Answer it truthfully and you'll be all right. After all, Izuku felt the blade pressed up more behind his neck. Depending on your answer, you may not end up unharmed. Understand? Izuku felt absolutely terrified. He was basically shivering down to his spine and sweat frantically went down the side of his head. What did I do? What does he wanna ask me? Why is my luck so bad today? I'm going to remove my hand from your mouth. Just answer my question and everything will be fine, alright? Izuku slowly nodded his head once more in confirmation. He removed his hand from Izuku's mouth and moved closer to his ear. Your lifelong dream is to become a hero. You've studied them, admired them, desired to become one of them. Yet, Every person you've met discriminated you and told you that it was impossible for you to become one due to being quirkless. Yet, you've been holding on to that dream for so long with hopes of somehow being able to become one. A boy without power trying to become a hero. It wasn't until your lifelong hero, All Might, finally told you that you finally realized that your dream wasn't achievable. Hearing all of this once more, Izuku had gone from being scared to partially depressed. I know that. But where is he going with this? So now that you've realized how futile it is to become a hero, let me ask you, Izuku Midoriya. His eyes glared in a serious manner. What path will you be taking now? Izuku repeated that question in his mind. What path will I be taking? His mind shot back to his entire childhood, remembering just how much he wished to become a hero growing up. He felt tears beginning to form in his eyes as he thought back to first learning that he was quirkless. He remembered on that same night when he asked his mom if he could become a hero. She only apologized again and again and again, giving no hope to the boy whatsoever. He clenched his hand and thought about Bakugo and all of his classmates bringing Izuku's dream down several times. He felt angry. He wanted to do something, to say something, but he knew that whatever he said wouldn't matter. All Might saying he couldn't become a hero, he had felt a part of his spirit break at that moment. He was heartbroken, betrayed, miserable, but despite all of this he still knew what he wanted to do. There were drops of water falling onto the floor. I still want to become a hero, no matter what. His voice was cracking as he sobbed. All I want is to be able to do is save people with a smile. I don't want to give up on that dream. It's all I ever wanted. Izuku said truthfully. The person stared in wonder at the boy. Despite being treated so terribly and even though his dream seemed like a fantasy, Izuku still had the will to go on with it. He sighed. I see you really are an idiot. Izuku sniffled. Yet it's admirable. Izuku perked his head up. He felt the hand on his arm let go and the blade on his neck get removed. He immediately turned around at an attempt to get a view of his attacker, but to his surprise, there was no longer anyone right there. Who was that? They already left. Izuku muttered as his eyes frantically looked around for any indication of his assaulter. Having discovered that there was no one around, he sighed in relief. Guess he's gone. I don't think I should bother reporting this to police. They won't have any leads to go on. He thought as he readjusted his backpack and wiped his eyes of the remaining tears. He left the alleyway with his head down once again. Who was that guy? Why was he spying on me for so long? Is he still? Izuku didn't get to finish the thought as a sudden explosion occurred in the distance and shook the ground. Izuku's eyes shot up and he saw smoke ahead in the city. That explosion! Izuku ran in the direction of the smoke and came upon a crowd of people attempting to look into an alleyway, from which was the source of the big clouds of smoke. Izuku noticed several different heroes on the scene, from the wood hero Kamui Woods wrapping up civilians to save, to Backdraft the firefighter hero who was attempting to put out the fires caused by the explosions. They seemed to be struggling. Izuku worried. He peeked through some civilians to get a better look, but his eyes widened in horror to recognize the sludge villain as the one that he had encountered earlier that day. Well, what is he doing here? Didn't All Might capture him? Izuku placed both hands over his mouth, a new terrible thought coming to mind. Did he escape because of me? As he worried, little did he know that the number one hero himself, All Might, was only a few feet away from him but in his skeletal form due to spending too much time in his hero form. He didn't notice Izuku near him either, since he could only stare in similar despair and anger at the sludge villain causing destruction in the alley. Damn it! Why am I so pathetic? I can't even save one boy." Toshinori thought to himself as he punched the wall next to him out of anger, not even making much of a dent in his skeletal form. As this was all happening, someone was examining the situation all the way from the top of one of the buildings connecting the alleyway. The sun gleamed over him, making him a silhouette with two glowing red eyes watching the entire scene below. It appears that the villain somehow managed to escape the confinement of All Might. So much for a professional hero. He then looked down at Izuku once more. Although you say that you desire to be a hero, what could you do? How far are you willing to go to prove it? He muttered. Izuku stared at the devastating sight in front of him, wondering what would happen and if the heroes didn't stop the villain. But then the villain turned his body and Izuku's heart dropped. He saw his lifetime bully, Katsuki Bakugo, being held captive within the sludge villain's body with water in his eyes from suffocating. Kaken! Izuku screamed in his head in horror. He then heard Death Arms yell out to someone, "Hey kid, stop! It's too dangerous." Izuku wondered who Death Arms was calling out to before realizing that he was currently running toward the sludge villain as if his legs had minds of their own. "What the hell am I doing?" he screamed in his head as he ran up to the villain. The teen, watching from the roof, and squinted his eyes at the sight of Izuku running despite not having any powers. In the crowd stood Toshinori, surprised, speechless, and stunned from what he saw. Out of anyone that could have run towards such a dangerous scene, the quirkless boy that he encountered earlier was the one to do it. Izuku, on the other hand, was completely freaking out. Crap, crap, crap. I ran in here, but what do I do? I'll just get killed. Think, Izuku, think. His mind flipped towards 3 sections of the notebook in his mind. I gotta obscure his sight. He gripped onto a strap of his backpack and flung it upward towards the villain's eyes. The sludge villain saw Izuku running towards him and felt fueled with anger. "You!" the sludge villain screeched. However, before he could react and go for Izuku, he got hit in the eye by some of Izuku's school materials flying from his open backpack. "Aargh!" the sludge villain yelled as he closed his eyes and winced from the sudden pain. Toshinori could only watch in terror. This kid is gonna get himself killed. His eyes then widened as he recalled his own experiences before becoming a hero. He remembered the stories of the best heroes and compared the similarities to what Izuku was currently doing. Remembering what it meant to be a hero once more, Toshinori felt himself getting more determined than ever and began buffing back into his muscular form. Luckily, everyone was too focused on Izuku running to the villain than to notice him. "I can't sit here and watch." In the meantime, Izuku leaped to the sludge villain and went right to attempting to free Bakugo by scooping up chunks of sludge and throwing them aside, sadly not succeeding. During that time, Bakugo managed to free his mouth from the sludge and glared at Izuku with rage in his eyes. "Deku! What the hell? Why are you fucking here?" he yelled at him. Izuku had tears in his eyes as he looked at Bakugo with a sad smile. "Well, you just looked like you were asking for help," he said in a cracking voice. The person above had a realization, so he's one of those types of people. The kind who would be willing to endanger his own life for the sake of even one other person. A true hero. Pathetic, pathetic. Toshinori shouted to himself, turning back into All Might. By this point, the villain had recovered from the pain in his eyes and looked down at Izuku with blood-red eyes, his pupils shrinking in pure anger. "You bastard! I'll kill you!" yelled out the villain as a large, sludge hand came out and overshadowed Izuku and Bakugo, mere seconds from overtaking them entirely. The teen on the roof stood up and nearly jumped down to stop the attack. However, from the corner of his eyes the blond muscular man that he had seen before jumped towards Izuku at vanishing speeds, actually surprising him a bit. He's fast. The villain's hand collided with something, causing another explosion to occur. Many of the crowd gasped in shock, thinking the worst had happened. Izuku shielded his eyes from the smoke, but when he opened them, he was shocked to see his hero, All Might, right in front of him with his hand in the sludge and protecting both him and Bakugo. I really am pathetic. Even though I admonished you, I wasn't putting what I said into practice. He raised his fist back and forcefully pulled off the slime that was on him. I found him, Nana. I finally found him. All Might. The sludge villain shouted in rage as he prepared for another attack to swallow All Might whole. But All Might had already begun moving his fist forward as his eyes shined an inspired blue, Detroitite smash. The moment his punch connected to the sludge villain, a giant shockwave blew the entire villain away, his slime body spreading all over the alleyway. Intense winds put out all the fires in the area while also nearly blowing back many civilians if it wasn't for Mount Lady using her arms to protect them. The smoke cleared, revealing All Might standing proudly in a now fire-free area. After a moment for people to process exactly what had happened, they erupted with cheers for him for his heroic act. I found my next successor. All Might thought proudly. The red-eyed person kept watching as the heroes began to clean up the area after what had happened. He recognized the same wood hero that he encountered the previous night, but also took into account the many other heroes around. Interesting. So everyone has a special power that is called a quirk, which has allowed for a new career choice of hero to develop in this society, yet his gaze turned over to Izuku now, who was currently getting scolded by the pro-heroes. You don't have one. Why is that? He watched as Izuku bowed apologetically in front of the heroes and then ran off in the direction of his house. Izuku Midoriya, you are definitely worth to let live for the sake of others. It will be difficult for me to make you into something greater, but I will try to make it so that you can succeed in your dream while also helping me achieve my own goal. He spoke out. The sky was beginning to glow orange as the sun was setting. People moved along the street away and away from the crime scene. The person noticed Bakugo look around to discover that Izuku had left and shrugged off the heroes as he ran after the boy with an enraged look on his face. Could he really be angry at Midoriya for trying to save him? How vexing. He then noticed All Might looking around in shock to see that the broccoli-haired boy he chose was no longer around. He apologized to the media and then blasted off at fast speeds into the sky, jumping from rooftop to rooftop. That hero, he's indeed powerful, even if he has the major drawback of the limit on his power. However, I noticed that look in his eyes before he saved those two from that monster. He was inspired by that boy, and judging by how he looked when he rushed off, he must be going to find him. He then jumped off the rooftop and went along to also follow the direction that Izuku took. What could he want with him this time? Little did this mysterious being know that on that day, by formally meeting not just Izuku, but All Might as well, that he would be starting on an adventure that would change his entire life. Everything he knew before, everything he didn't know, everything that he remembered, that was all going to change due to taking the same path as the emerald-haired boy. And so began the adventure begins. Thank you guys. If you made it this far in the video and enjoy the story, please leave a like and subscribe for more what ifs, and check out my